welcome to episode 8 of Tea and Possibilities. I'm Nikki and this is a podcast all about knitting, making and crafting all the things here in Southsea in Portsmouth on the south coast of England. You can find me on Twitter and Instagram at hippie_Nikki and I'm on Ravelry as Nikki Hippie. As always, I would like to say a massive thank you if you are coming back to spend some more time with me, and an equally massive thank you if you are a new viewer. Thank you for giving me a shot and I hope you enjoy the episode. There is no tea today, guys. I know, shocker, given the title of this podcast. But we have a very lovely friend of ours staying. They have only just gone out and I have scrambled to try and get everything set up, everything pulled together before the light goes, because as with last week, it is an incredibly grey day. It's been raining all morning and the light is going. It's about 3 o'clock in the afternoon and I really just want to get loads and loads done. So I didn't stop to make a cup of tea. I didn't stop to even properly dry my hair. So yeah, that's just how today is. Just off of camera, I do have a really nice big glass of water. I've got a Yankee candle on the go, so I'm feeling merry and bright despite the mad dash to get this podcast recorded for you. Let's dive straight in with Whipped Up. Now, first things first, I should probably address what I am wearing. This beautiful squidgy bit of garter stitch loveliness is the Colour Block Shawl by Sarah Knight of the blog Crafts from the Cwtch, which I'm sure you have probably heard of if you're not a regular reader. It is absolutely beautiful. It's quite chilly, but I am going to take it off for you. I knit it in the yarn she recommended, which is, and I'm going to massacre the name now, Sheepjes, which is, I believe, a Dutch company, and their yarn is beautiful. This is cotton. It's their stone washed XL, so it's quite chunky, and it is actually, I've worn it so much, it's a little bit pilly. I need to get my gleaner on it, so sorry. But I've just got a block of turquoise here, a block of denim, because as I'm always saying, denim is my neutral, with some mustardy stripes, and then a nice big chunk of purple. So all my favourite colours, all in one, and I wear this to death. I made it last year, I believe. Yeah, I think it was last year. And I wear it out. It's beautiful when it's a cold day, tucked inside your coat. I wear it, as you can see, at home. At work, it gets very cold in the office, so I tend to wear it as a shawl around my shoulders. I think this is probably one of my favourite knits. It's definitely my most worn one, and I would absolutely make another one in a heartbeat because it's such a simple pattern and it is so beautiful when it's finished. Really simple but very, very effective. So I would absolutely recommend this, and I will link it in the show notes, which you will find on my blog. Next up, I should mention the thing I am not going to talk about this week. The Lily Pilly. The Lily Pilly. Do you know what? It's just better if you don't ask. I don't know what it is about me in this pattern. I don't know if it's because my attention is elsewhere. I'm trying to get things done for Christmas. I don't know. All I know is knitting attacks constantly with the Lily Pilly. So I'm putting it to one side, I am focusing on some other things that have deadlines, and then I'm going to pick it up again. And it's going to work, and it's going to be a beautiful, beautiful experience. Actually this week, I haven't really done any knitting. I put a couple of rows on a square on my Cozy Memories blanket, but it was a square I showed you last week. So I haven't pulled that out of its little bag because you've seen it already. What I have been working on is the initials for my handmade Christmas stockings. Here we go. This is the first one that I've been working on. I spent the beginning half of the week tweaking the patterns And then I just cracked on once I'd ordered all the yarn, threads, not yarn, that I needed, and I made a start on this one first. It's just going to be a simple V in green with a little bauble here. The bauble's going to have a gold like snowflake design on it, but I'm actually going to put that in last, and I might actually do it in 3 strands of gold thread rather than 2, just to give it that little extra kind of texture, so it's a little bit more pronounced than the other stitches. I have had some issues with this. The patterns were good to go, apart from the one that I mentioned last week that I'm having some issues with. And I thought, okay, I'm going to order all of the threads that I need, because I didn't have all the colours. I needed some more plastic canvas, and I'm going to finesse the pattern slightly and figure out who's having what colours, and then I'm going to print the patterns. Easier said than done. My printer has decided that its main function in life is to chew paper. So it will literally pour the paper in, jerk it to the side, and then make that horrendous noise that they make. That was not at all a good impression of a printer, sorry. But it will just refuse to print. It just chews up everything, and it is absolutely maddening, but what can you do? So I have been working from the computer screen itself, which is obviously not ideal because it means that I can only work on these from home. So what I decided to do, as you can probably see here, is rather than work back and forth in rows, which is how I usually work, I decided to do the entire outline first. So I did, first of all, the outline of the paler green, which is just this one here, and then I did the outline of the darker green. I did the bauble all in one go because it was quite small and I had the morning and I thought I would just sit and do it. But now all I have to do while I'm watching TV, if I want to take it on the bus, if we have a train journey coming up, if we go to friends, I can literally just work back and forth. I don't have to refer to a pattern. And I already feel like this is stitched up loads quicker than the ones I did last year where I did work back and forth. So this is only 2 days work. That's Thursday evening. We had people over last night, Friday, and this morning. And all I have to do is fill in this green space, this darker green space, do the gold, and then do the outline, which is really simple, and I will not have to refer to a pattern at all, which is brilliant. There are 2 more that I'm going to do after this, because those are the 3 that need delivering first. Then I'm going to make up the stockings with their pom-poms and all their little bits and bobs inside, so they're completely done. And then I'm going to go back to the pattern I'm having so much trouble with, and I'm going to try and finesse that and then get the last 2 stitched up. So yeah, wish me luck. I am super excited about this project. I used to stitch all the time. That was kind of my main introduction into crafts. My nan taught me to knit when I was very young. She taught me to crochet when I was very young, but it wasn't something that I really enjoyed. And then when I was about 10, I discovered cross stitch, and I did it constantly. I made cards every year for everyone, birthday cards, Christmas cards, Mother's Day cards, all that kind of thing. I made some really beautiful pictures. Some of the patterns you can get are amazing. They're so gorgeous. And my mum still has a couple that I made for her. But then I just stopped. I don't know why. I think I reached a point where I realised I didn't want to have these stitched pictures up in my house. And so I just kind of stopped doing it. And that's kind of, there was a lull for a little while before I picked up knitting. But I do really enjoy stitching. I get a great deal of satisfaction out of it. And I really love the combination of the cross-stitched on plastic canvas initials and the crocheted stockings. So I'm really happy with them, and I'm really looking forward to giving them to the people who are going to get them this year. The only thing I will say about stitching is that you don't get project bags and things like that like you do with knitting. I mean, maybe you do, but as I said, I don't really stitch much anymore. So I'm currently carrying around all the bits necessary for this project in this plastic bag. So I've got all of the plastic canvas here. I've got a note on who's getting what colour. I've got all my threads. So these are the ones I already had. So I already had the gold, and I had to order some of the purples and the reds. And that's fine. It keeps everything together, but I do think it's a bit of a shame that you can't get really beautiful stitching holders. I mean, if you can, do let me know, because I am already planning next year's stockings. I think there's going to be 3 for friends, and as I've said before, a friend of mine is having a baby, so I'll probably make that as their kind of first Christmas gift, make them a little stocking. So yeah, I'm already planning next year, so it'd be quite nice if I could get, I don't know, if a little book kind of thing where you could slot in the plastic canvas and then a little space where you could like tuck all your threads in. That'd be quite nice. So yeah, I'm planning ahead. Finally, for Whipped Up, I want to show you a little bit of an acquisition. I mean, I don't know if it counts as acquisition if I didn't buy it. The lovely people at loveknitting.com saw my vlog about the flock party and asked if I would like a Paintbox Yarns advent calendar. And of course I said yes. So, welcome home advent calendar number 4. This is not a usual thing, by the way. I don't usually have any more than just a normal Cadbury's advent calendar. I decided to treat myself to the opal one. I thought the Yankee Candle one would be a nice thing for Rich and I to have in the home. And then this, I mean, I didn't buy it. It was a gift. So I do feel a little bit embarrassed about the fact that I have 4. But I'm going to enjoy it. It's going to be fine. I have been wandering around with it a little bit in the house, kind of like, oh, I've got an advent calendar, trying to find a place for it to live. And because I'm a bit of a clumsy so-and-so, I have popped a couple of the little doors. I haven't opened them, they've just been kind of dented slightly. But I think it's a really beautiful thing. It's quite chunky, as you can see. It's quite large, but it's not anywhere near as big as the opal one, which is just, I mean, it's just living under the dining table at the moment because it's massive. But this one, you know, can just sit on your table quite nicely. I do have plans for the contents of this advent calendar. As I said in the flock video, they had these really beautiful crocheted baubles, and I have found the pattern on the loveknitting.com website, which I will link to in the show notes, and I'm going to make a few of those. I'm also going to keep hold of them because I know that Molly of a Homespun House is hosting an ornamentalong for next year, or I believe, I'll double check this, but I believe you make an ornament a month for 2017. I think that's a great idea because then at the end of the year you've got 12 really beautiful things that you haven't rushed in the last couple of weeks before Christmas to make. So I'll be taking part in that, and I think that my Paintbox yarns are really going to help me with that. So I'd like to say a massive thank you to the people at Love Knitting, Love Crochet, Love Crafts for sending this, because I am a very happy girl indeed. Thank you. Just realised the light is probably going to be very atmospheric in this episode because I've got a candle on the table as well. It's one of the new Yankee Candle festive ones called All Is Bright, and I couldn't resist it. I love scented candles. I love my house smelling lovely. So yeah, don't worry, don't be concerned that there's a fire or something. It is a candle. And we'll just call it festive and atmospheric. But that's all for Whipped Up this week, and now let's move on to a bit of Here Be Spoilers. So last week I mentioned that I was watching The Crown, which is an American-British production available on Netflix. It stars Claire Foy as our current Queen Elizabeth II. Matt Smith plays Prince Philip, and there is Victoria Hamilton playing the Queen Mother, Jared Harris playing King George, I want to say the 6th, but the Queen's dad. There's a lot of really, really great people in this. Ben Miles plays Group Captain Peter Townsend. Vanessa Kirby plays Princess Margaret. It's a really good production. It's the first season. I did watch the entire thing over a couple of days. It's only 10 episodes, so I don't feel too bad about it, but I did really binge on it. But it's the very early years of her reign, so it's just before she became queen and kind of a couple of years afterwards, and how the role of queen changes her relationship with her husband, with her mother, with her sister, because while those are things that she has been, she's been a daughter and a sister all her life, while she has been putting being a wife and mother first, she's now queen. And as Queen Mary, her grandmother, reminds her, duty comes first. It is above and beyond absolutely everything. You must always put the crown first. And I think that's what makes it such an interesting show for me. I wouldn't consider myself a royalist, but nor would I consider myself a Republican. I'm kind of in that uneasy middle where, I'm not really sure how I feel about it. But I found it in some ways incredibly claustrophobic, the story, the things that you and I would take for granted, and they just cannot do. They can't marry who they want. They can't just go off on holiday. They do now a lot more, but in the kind of 50s, it was really surprisingly restrictive being a member of the royal family. And I do think that being the head of state, whether you're the king or the queen, is restrictive no matter when you take that role on. Since she was 25, she hasn't been able to express a public opinion, really. She hasn't been able to vote. She hasn't been able to stand up and make her opinion known in, big things like, for example, Brexit. And it's incredibly frowned on that when other members of her family does something like that. And when Charles comes to the throne, when William, when his son George, their life, which is fairly free at the moment and incredibly privileged, will become very much narrower. And it's strange because it's a beautiful, beautiful life. You live in palaces, you fly around the world, you meet people from fantastically interesting people in the workaday world, all the way up to other heads of state, film stars. You have this amazingly diverse life in so many ways, but in the ways I think that matter most, you're incredibly curtailed. And I found that really interesting. Another thing I found really interesting was the portrayal of the people involved. Prince Philip is notoriously the least politically correct man in the country, potentially the world. And I feel they toned that back a little bit. I don't know if they're gonna ramp that up over successive seasons. But I was actually quite surprised by the portrayal of the Queen and the Queen Mother. The Queen Mother in particular, I have often felt in this country there's a sort of reverence for her. She lived to 101, I want to say. I do definitely have a very clear memory of her 100th birthday celebrations. And she was always been kind of referred to as this very mumsy, granny-like character. And I was quite surprised that there was a slightly harsher portrayal of her in this show. The fact that she turns around to her daughters and says, I didn't need to educate you. You are the queen, you do not need an education. And there are these moments where you kind of go, wow, okay, you're human. which is great. But I do wonder if that's because she has, not been part of the fabric of our society for, quite a few years now. I wonder if that's just the natural turning of the tide where people, just naturally look for the more human element. And I was actually also surprised by the portrayal of Elizabeth. She's our reigning monarch. And while it is by no means an unflattering portrayal, it really is quite warts and all in some ways. They show her relationship with Prince Philip is not necessarily the romance you would expect to see. I certainly was watching this series expecting it to be the central theme of it being this great romance between this man who married a woman who would be queen. And it is that, but it's not about the romance. It's about the damage that does to their marriage. It's about her inability to open up about how that makes her feel. And it is in some ways an incredibly bittersweet portrayal. I think Claire Foy does an absolutely amazing job. She is easily one of the best actresses we have in this country. I thought that Claire Foy was wonderful when she played Anne Boleyn in Wolf Hall, which is another thing I would highly recommend. And finally, I've just found it an incredibly interesting production to watch, purely because I'd read this interview with Claire Foy a few weeks ago where she said that she was asked what her preparation was for the role, and she said that as an English woman, you know a lot about the Queen by osmosis. And I thought, that's so true, that's incredibly true. I'm used to what the Queen looks like, what the Queen does. I'm even intensely familiar with iconic dresses that she wore in her youth. So that's really interesting. And it's not till you watch something like The Crown that you kind of realise how much you do know about them. I was watching it and I knew how things were going to pan out, and I was surprised by how much I knew about how it would work. The costumes are also amazing. As I said, I'm oddly familiar with the iconic outfits of her youth because these are just things I have seen all my life, which is really strange when you think about it because I wasn't around then. And that is, I think, where so much of the budget went, because this is one of, I think, possibly I've heard, most expensive show ever made. And it shows. The sets, the costumes are just absolutely stunning. They are so beautiful. And I'd recommend on a visual aspect alone. Literally the only thing I didn't like about this show was David, or King Edward who abdicated and married Wallis Simpson. To my knowledge, he had not had much of a relationship with the family once he abdicated and left England. So I was surprised by how much he was in the show. I don't know how much of that is factually accurate, but he was a pain. He was, every time he'd turn up, I just feel like, oh God, not again. Oh God. Just the way he talked was so cringy and, So yeah, I mean, if that's what you were going for, script writers, Alex Jennings, who played him, you did a great job, because he was horrendous. I hated him. Let's move on to Girl Power. I am incredibly aware that the light is fading faster and faster and faster, and soon I'm going to be lit by this one candle and it's going to look like the Blair Witch Project. So do forgive me if I hurry through this segment. I just wanted to talk a little bit about Christmas bullet journaling. As I've said before, Christmas can be incredibly stressful. There is a lot of things to coordinate, from who you're going to see, where you're having your Christmas Day meal, who you're seeing when, what parties you're going to, what food you're going to eat, who you need to buy for, the list goes on and on. It can be incredibly overwhelming. And I've got my bullet journal, which I love, and I thought I need to start implementing this so that I can feel calmer about this, because we're not having a particularly stressful Christmas this year, but I always feel better when everything is written down. It just makes me feel so much better. So I had a little bit of a YouTube session where I looked up what other people were doing with their Christmas bullet journal, and I found this amazing video from Caitlin's Corner, which I'm going to link to. I'm probably going to watch loads more of her videos because I found them really interesting. But what she's done is, instead of buying a dedicated Christmas planner like the Kath Kitson one I mentioned a few weeks ago, she's actually bought a separate bullet journal and is just using that for Christmas. In that, she is tracking her ideas that she has for people throughout the year, her Christmas cards, her budgets, including things like decorations, food, all the things that you don't always consider because you're so focused on the present buying. She's also got a log so she can refer back and see what she bought people the year before so she doesn't double up, which is a great idea because I found myself ringing a friend only this week to say, did I buy your baby Rosie Revere engineer, or did I buy that for my baby cousin? Because I'm trying to work out if I did or not, because I'd like to get it for her this year. If I'd logged everything, it wouldn't be an issue. So I think that's what I'm going to do. I'm going to treat myself to a new journal, which I'm going to just log all my Christmas things in, and I'm going to make it look pretty, and hopefully I will get it this week and work on setting it up this week. If not, it'll be the week after. And it's definitely something that I want to use over the next few years, really refine it, because I just find that planning anything from a holiday to camping to Christmas, everything just goes so much better if you jot a few things down, because then you don't have the stress of, did I pack that thing that I meant to take? Because if you've written it down and you've ticked it off, you know you have. And that's just what works for me. And I like having a little place to keep all my Christmassy bits and bobs in. That really just makes me feel all festive and cheerful, and I'm really, really looking forward to the 1st of December. Because much as I do like to plan ahead, I am absolutely not somebody who wants to see Christmas displays or hear Christmas tunes before the 1st of December. I just like to get ahead from a purely stress and financial point of view, but I'm really looking forward to the 1st of December when we can start doing festive things like mince pie making, gingerbread making. I'm hoping to, when I go to London to see some friends, that we'll be able to pop into town and go and see some of the window displays. Selfridges always looks brilliant, and Harrods, I never go in, but it's really wonderful going to see all the decorations. If you've got any ideas about Christmas planning, I would love to hear them. I'm always open to hearing new planning ideas, new ways of setting up a bullet journal. So if you have any great videos or people that are doing brilliant things, let me know, point me in the right direction. I am really excited to start something new. There's not going to be any knit and natter this week, guys, for the simple reason that the light is fading and I feel like I am going deeper and deeper into a cave at this point. I will be able to colour correct this, so hopefully I'll be talking about the casually descending darkness and you'll be sitting there going, what darkness? It's perfectly exposed. But it is getting very dark and I am in desperate need of a cup of tea. So I would love to say a massive thank you for spending some time with me, and I hope you have a fantastic week. Please like and subscribe, and I will see you for an actual cup of tea next week. Take care, bye.